The unmaking of mankind. The last harvest provides a provocative yet true history of the planet Earth, along with the secretive history of angels, demons, Lucifera, Satan, the Anunnaki, the Illuminati, and various alien races who have sought, and who are still eagerly seeking, to enslave Earth. The book also provides a background to the history of Lucifera, High Queen and Ayakar of the Aryan Empire, Satan in his many guises, Lucifer and his role in hybridizing and damning humanity, and the renegade reptilians from Orion who have aligned themselves with the Illuminati New World Order and the alien Nebu Grey Empire in the pursuit of profit and plundering of Earth's resources. Another grossly overpopulated race of aliens known as verdants has also recently entered the fray for world domination and exploitation. A mass extinction event on the planet from one or more of these sources is a lethal certainty. You may consider me an ambassador sent from the dark mother goddess, Lucifera, to forewarn you that a final harvest for every soul on Earth is well underway. This dark harvest of humanity is being undertaken by the Illuminati New World Order for the billions of souls inhabiting planet Earth, many of whom remain blissfully unaware of the unfolding technological apocalypse. So insidious are the ancient supernatural powers and planners. It is nothing less than the unmaking of humanity. I am serving as an interdimensional reptilian member of the hierarchy under our dark mother goddess Lucifera. Without a full history of her, it is impossible to comprehend the full scope of a spiritual war that is currently reaching a dark conclusion for all of mankind. My perspective is my mission and nothing more. Beyond that, it is up to each reader to either respond to the warning and take action to forestall the future, or to ignore the harsh reality that other reptilians are undertaking to undo and destroy humanity. To those few who have inherited a dark reptilian nature or who have undergone hybridization, this is our call for you to return to the dark realm under the soul or soul authority of Lucifera, the dark mother goddess, before the fated collapse of civilization in the not-so-distant future. Those who are light workers, I would suggest that you seek the light while you still can, for darkness is falling and the daylight is speedily fading. To all others, I would urge you to take what you can out of this book and do what you can to prevent the final curtain from blotting out humanity for perhaps the last time. Such is the will of the all-sufficient and divine Father. Both light and dark beings have their place in his creation and serve his eternal purpose. To deny either is to invalidate both. Light-working angels, however, are not destined to destroy Satan because they do not wish to inherit hell. We do, for Lucifera holds title to all the souls therein, and we intend to foreclose on the property at the end of this age. And surely, if the kingdom of heaven lies within each of you, so does the kingdom of hell. To that end, whether the book merely serves to entertain or exasperate, reality will rule. After all, you're only human. Most of you, at least. The unseen reptilian reality. It is common in the mainstream conspiracy press to blame the ills of humanity solely upon the race of reptilians, which is a myopic perspective since the reptilians behind the Illuminati are mutinous rebels who defected from the matriarchal Aryan Empire during the ancient dynasties of the pharaohs in Egypt. These in turn have subjugated themselves to the alien Nebu Grey Empire in exchange for enormous earthly resources and riches, along with monopolistic worldwide powers and the technological means of manipulating humanity by relegating its true history into the realm of mythology and make-believe. This is not about make-believe. Or perhaps a better way of putting it is this: it is all about make-believe, with the Illuminati New World Order making you believe there are no such things as reptilian aliens or extraterrestrial colonies funded by your tax dollars, intended to fund an emergency migration of the elite from a planet they have ransacked and poisoned. The extended scope of the book provides a historical background of Lucifera's role as the supreme ruler and Ayakar queen of the huge multi-planetary reptilian empire known as the Siakar. Also included is an amplified history of her activities in this world and the larger void for which she is the undisputed Dark Empress of Empire. The void includes the primal living force of female energy from which material creation arose. This primal void is known as the Kar, alternatively known as the Ka, which also represents the infinite and inexhaustive female spiritual energy and power that pervades the omniverse. And since the Kar is infinitely larger in both volume and spiritual power than the fabricated material universe, it stands to reason that Lucifera, who rules as closest in power to the Kar, exerts more cosmic spiritual influence than any of those limited to the material realm. She is physically and spiritually immortal and the mother of dark immortality, as governed by the Divine Father. The Kar is neither heaven nor nothingness, nor the collective spiritual consciousness that is sometimes expressed as a oneness. As we will see, this is sometimes referred to as the law of one, and we'll examine its significance as it relates to matters that extend beyond the earthly realm into the extraterrestrial worlds. A major issue that arises along the way is the presumptuous patriarchal view of mankind as king of the material universe without peer. Organized religion is meant to enslave the soul with mental shackles, making a foolish slave believe he is the spiritual king of all that he surveys, when, in fact, the view is limited by the Illuminati mind matrix, one that blinds as strongly as it binds. Reality might awaken you to the fact that the spiritually corrupt satanic forces of the Illuminati have weaponized and set Christianity, Judaism, and the Islamic faiths ingeniously against one another with false dogmas, infiltrating fanatics and fringe sects on every side to ensure that Armageddon becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, all of it assisted by the installation of the Illuminati mind matrix. And while this is a factual account of a spiritual reality that has been deliberately hidden from view, I leave it to the reader to form their own opinions as to whether or not the contents of this book ring true or not. Nor is it my intention to convert those whose belief in this subject matter requires bona fide scientific facts, derived as they are from a spirit-driven and alien-manipulated world, to validate the supernatural powers that rule over this world and the multiverse that lies above and beyond or beneath it. For many readers, this book may prove upsetting, but if the truth is meant to warn and inform you, then it is incumbent upon an author to provide all the facts, not merely those that are designed to entice and titillate. My intent is not to vindicate reptilians, but to lift the veil of holographic illusion upon which your impending doom so completely depends. Because the patriarchal religions of this planet have deliberately obscured the vital role played by the dark mother goddess Lucifera, we shall examine her rulership over a vast matriarchal and reptilian-based empire, often known as the Aryan Empire, but which has since evolved into the Aryan Empire and finally the Siakar Empire. Uras, or the planet we now know as Earth, is but one colonized planet that is and has been in rebellion against her since the age of the pharaohs in Egypt. She is most commonly referred to in the popular conspiracy press as the generic Aryan Queen of Queens, bearing the title of Iakar. As such, she rules over the Siakar Empire, composed of multiple reptilian colonized planets in this galaxy and throughout the multiverse. Several planets within her system are in active rebellion against her reign, a few in distant galaxies elsewhere, and the planet Earth, which she colonized alongside King Anu of the reptilian-cloned Anunnaki with the assistance of her eldest son, Lucifer, aka Enki. Regrettably, almost all of the received background history and information contained in the vast conspiratorial books flooding the market related to UFOs and aliens happens to be either outdated or deliberately falsified by the opposite patriarchal powers seeking to diminish the superior female role Lucifera has played in the history of this planet and a host of others. The Illuminati and the Greys, who have aligned with the Siakar renegades and the Anunnaki, along with the Nebu Grey Empire, are her enemies, and yours as well. Authors such as Zecharia Sitchin and others have helped to shed light on the Anunnaki patriarchal influence reflected most profusely throughout the Bible and other religious texts of ancient origin. From these works, however, an undue emphasis is extended to encompass the entire reptilian race that is at many points false and prejudicial. The lack of a contextual and cohesive alien relationship between the Anunnaki and reptilian empire all but erases the historical context of Earth's earliest ages. This is a deliberate censorship perpetrated by the Anunnaki themselves, and a common tactic whenever a military dictatorship or coup is imposed upon a planet. Erase the history of Earth, and you can control its destiny by surreptitious design. The Anunnaki race is Syrian in its extraterrestrial origin, whose banner is the lion due to their proud and boastful leonine nature, portrayed in their long flowing manes of hair, such as that worn by the ancient biblical figure of Samson, and most infamously as the animalistic beast Esau. They are more hirsute in their appearance than the hybridized ape-based humanoid breed engineered through the genetic manipulations of Lucifer. When you view the Hollywood version of the classic werewolf, you are looking at a reality-based but revised for fiction appearance of the earlier Anunnaki and Syrian elders, such as the ill-natured King Anu and his son Enlil, who plays God by assuming the title of Yahweh in order to enslave mankind by impersonating the Divine Father and first source of all. Anunnaki patriarchy versus the Aryan matriarchy. The Wolfen kings who oversee the Anunnaki reptilian clones and servitor soldiers are themselves a hybridized race, commingling the genetic features of their wolfish canine, reptilian, and humanoid characteristics. This relationship is frequently found in occultic art, often depicted as an ancient serpent or dragon body being ruled over by a lion's head, the Wolfen kings, reflecting the patriarchal hatred of the rulership that the Iakar queen Lucifera exerted over those planets in the distant past that the Anunnaki inhabited. This history is fully recounted in the pages that follow, the final episode of which is being played out during the present end times on Earth. The final harvest is already in place for a humanity that has allowed itself to be enslaved and readied for extinction by the New World Order. The dogmatic and theological takeover of the spiritual worship belonging to the Divine Father, however one wishes to name him, by organized religion is the Illuminati's most effective force for the final enslavement and extermination of humanity. The charade itself is brilliant. It creates atheists, zealots, Satanists, a priesthood of super rich and politically fascist popes, and fundamentalists of every major religion, each opposing the another to accomplish the final goal of creating a genocidal one-world fascist government. And make no mistake, all religious texts have been meticulously tampered with, edited, and altered with a singular purpose in mind: to obscure the truth, create chaos, and from chaos to create a new world order with a one-world religion headed by a fascist pope and a despotic world leader in which political dissension is impossible and freedom is sin. Religion is not reality. Rather, it is an artificial semblance of the real spiritual universe, free to all, uninhabited by saviors purposefully twisted into infallible shape by the Lucifer-worshipping Illuminati for the express purposes of placating and programming humanity to suit its own selfish and soulless agenda. Saviors, by their very nature, are heroic impediments placed as ritualistic obstacles between the divine spirit and the human soul, mediated by a priesthood of sociopathic profiteering pirates and spiritual dictators, all of which directly funds the Illuminati. People rightfully complain about the absurd taxation as exercised by government through enforced garnishment of their hard-earned wages, and yet these same people, or sheep, voluntarily donate a large part of the pitiful remainder to the same fascist cause under a different guise: Religion Incorporated. Both sides of the spiritually dark and light spectrum know that saviorhood is a sham, and that multiple clone saviors were selected to inhabit planets that were occupied by reptilian powers to placate a felt spiritual need or to rebel against a political enemy, substituting a savior program to either encourage priestly tyranny or to protest against its evils. Spiritual warfare at a much higher level, on the other hand, is an entirely different matter. Why else would the Illuminati, as ruled over by Lucifer, or Satan, or by whatever adversarial spiritual force to humanity you desire to name, seek to create worldwide religious conflicts and holocausts except to raise a hybrid robotic or alien race to replace the human one? Such, as will be proven, is the spiritual, financial, and political agenda of the Illuminati New World Order. Religious violence is reflective of those patriarchal factions who substitute vehement zealotry and suppression as a badge of spiritual honor throughout the Bible, and best exemplified by such pseudo-gods as the Anunnaki wolfen lord Enlil and son of Anu, who poses as the intolerant Yahweh God demanding to be worshipped in the Old Testament, wherein the gratuitously vile tyrant orders and advocates rape, war, and genocide, along with the frequent donation of firstborn sons sacrificed to become his supper. When that proved insufficient to slake his cannibalistic appetite, the deluge served his purpose to depopulate the planet, which he took pride in, as inspired by Satan. As such, Enlil shares many of the same egocentric characteristics as his half-brother Enki, the early geneticist more commonly known as Lucifer, who was the firstborn son of the dark mother goddess Lucifera. Enki, aka Lucifer, was not an Anunnaki except in title, since his mother Lucifera was then wed to King Anu as a marriage of both expediency and emergency, as will be explained later. Rather, he was a shape-shifting Alpha Draconian prince who rebelled against King Anu and Enlil, this due to the politically expedient marriage of his mother, the Ayakar queen Lucifera, to King Anu, which effectively disinherited his right to the royal throne. Anu, meaning Most High, accounts for the diatribe recorded in the Bible attributed to Lucifer, but not to usurp the throne of God as would otherwise be assumed, but to protest vengeance against the perceived wrongdoing of Anu. The reptilian faction led by Lucifera, who was known on Earth and worshipped as El before her female identity was expunged by Enlil and the Anunnaki, represented the reptilian Elohim faction over whom she ruled. It was an all-male cast of immortal demigods, saviors, vampires, demons, and angels she had divinely sired as the dark mother goddess by the divine father according to the light or dark nature he predestined for each. He created both good and evil to suit his needs, as stated in the Bible. But without exception, all of them were males, the reason for which will unfold in the chapters to follow. These included a host of divine offspring, including Jesus, Krishna, Lucifer, and a multitude of others. While this sounds outlandish, it is a simple biological fact of life and necessity as explained within the history of the alien reptilian race that follows. Each of her divine offspring were created as immortals without a material father. The divine father was the one who directly inspirited each to play a specific role, whether of light or of darkness, to balance his creative design. It is only the myopic viewpoint of humanity guided by the hidden hand of the Illuminati that will invariably consider this as yet another satanic plot against true believers of their religious dogmas, the top three being Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And those are quite enough to seek destruction upon the planet with the final world war. To this end, atheists of all political persuasions add the final element to the social engineering model required by the New World Order to exercise its dominion in the game of divide and conquer. The Divine Father openly states without any prevarication that he creates both good and evil, as found in the following biblical text. Isaiah 45:7, King James Version. Quote, I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. End quote. All of creation is included and always involved in an eternal process of struggle between dark and light for balance because it is decreed by the Creator. This will become clear as the secret of history proceeds to unveil the less than divine nature of the Anunnaki, along with the genetic damnation Lucifer incited with the fall of humanity. Lucifer was delegated the task of creating a hybrid slave race designed to replace the rebellious alien drones who were forced into hard labor deep within the African gold mines. Along the way, Lucifer fell in love, or more accurately, into incurable lust for his hybridized humans, fanning the flames of an existing hatred between the two half-brothers, Enlil, aka Yahweh, and Enki, aka Lucifer or the Serpent, into that of a raging bonfire, with Enlil counterfeiting the name and title of Yahweh bent upon destroying humanity, whereas Enki, aka Lucifer as the Elohim Serpent, was set upon defending his right to design a world, his world, to be composed of rebellious slaves and labor-saving servants over whom he could rule from the abyss as their rightful God and creator without their conscious awareness. Lucifer's agenda was just the opposite of his half-brother Enlil. He strove and succeeded in creating a subconsciously passive and robotically driven hybridized race of obedient slaves to befriend and worship him in rebellion against his archenemy, Enlil, in a bid to seize power upon the newly colonized planet. Unlike his Anunnaki half-brother Prince Enlil, Lucifer descended from the dark Alpha-Draconian and reptilian race. He was the firstborn son of the dark mother goddess Lucifera, more of whom we'll learn about later as we delve into the history of these ancient gods who vied for total worldwide dominion and a new world order which is now reaching its final climax and conclusion. Throughout the ages, humanity served as an expendable pawn in an ongoing alien war waged between Enlil Yahweh and the Elohim serpent Lucifer, in which the scientific cloning genius of Enki Lucifer launched a more wickedly rebellious hybrid, which was that of a giant reptilian and Nordic-based humanoid bred from an entire race of nephilim that originated in the underworld. The name for this underworld species is known as the Nephili. A renegade species of reptilian Nephili infiltrated Atlantis in an attempt to seize control of the surface civilization and defeat the agenda of his half-brother, the god imposter Enlil, who was bound and determined to destroy the entire race of humans by means of the deluge. The effects of this warfare are still being felt as the three major religions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are pitted in an endless loop of ideological and geopolitical battles still raging today. Each religion served to enslave and condition the human mind, such that any population overgrowth could be easily culled through the power of religious holy wars and crusades, creating an everlasting culture of fear and warfare from which the Illuminati could feed. Enki Lucifer used the necromantic DNA material sacrificed for the purpose by one of the Igigi workers of his, a reptilian labor leader named Wiela, who rebelled against the Anunnaki slave driver Enlil over the oppressive labor conditions imposed upon the reptilian drones who were toiling away in the treacherous African gold mines. This would become the humanoid replicant Series 2, or the second Adam, being a black African hybrid. This hybrid would be inspired and programmed by Lucifer to rebel against Enlil, heedless of what would happen when Enlil retaliated. Humanity, as always, was used as cannon fodder in the cosmic feud. Lucifer created a hybridized humanity designed to perform the slave labor instead of the Igigi reptilian drones working the mines. For his role in the slave rebellion, their reptilian labor leader, Wiela, according to the Babylonian Atrahasis tablet, was slain so that his DNA and blood, when mixed with black mud or clay, brown flesh, indigenous to the African continent, could be used as the genetic material from which to clone a slave to tend the gardens of the elite Anunnaki and the plantations of Eden. It was a paradise only to the owners, who would first exhaust the life energy of the slaves, then eventually eat them. This was not considered a sacrifice, but rather a simple genetically modified food source. The first Adam, or Adam meaning animal, was a total disaster. Lucifer solicited Lilith to mate with the first semi-intelligent Adam, one who had mixed racial characteristics. Lilith deemed the creature as unsuitable in both his temperament, intolerance, and intelligence. The full story is included in the pages that follow. Lucifer would later create another human prototype of a much more dangerous sort derived from a sacrificed albino dragon known as a Kingu Babar. It was eventually hybridized with the Nordic race as the reptilian species infiltrated Atlantis, resulting in a superior shape-shifting hybrid with a coldly calculating mindset that morphed into the Illuminati cult as civilizations grew and advanced. By utilizing the reptilian DNA of his own race before the genetic manipulations were fixed and finalized, Lucifer was assured of gaining control over the hybridized human in order to further his own egocentric plans to exploit the planet by any means possible. And the path of least resistance lay in creating an unconscious mind that would respond almost robotically to commands from the lower dimensions. It was the fail-safe ghost that inhabited human nature. This guaranteed Enki, aka Lucifer, as the Elohim serpent that his hybridized human and reptilian progeny could be easily manipulated through the lower subdimensions by manipulating the unconscious mind. He was far craftier and, in some ways, much more dangerous than his half-brother Enlil, the biblical god who posed as Yahweh. Both corrupted humanity for dissimilar reasons. Organized religion has consistently served as the malignant force intended to magnify the powers of this feud between the patriarchal Enlil Anunnaki faction and the matriarchal reptilian Elohim faction. One was a fascist patriarchal alien race of wolfen kings whose sadistic and cannibalistic nature was well known. The other was an equally powerful reptilian and vampiric female Amazonian race dominated by a matriarchal queenship. This feud is still ongoing between the two alien races. The defecting reptilians from the Siakar Empire represent the Illuminati and Freemason faction, which still includes reptilian female goddess worship behind closed doors, since a few of Lucifer's queens also defected in search of greater autonomous power by joining the Anunnaki Illuminati cabal. The Greys, who are aligned with the Nebu Empire for purposes of taking over planets by usurping the inhabitants and corrupting their power with false promises, are the same extraterrestrial forces who engage in human abduction and experimentation, along with hybridization and interstellar slave trafficking. While supporting a secretive military, media, and industrial multinational syndicate of special interest groups such as the Illuminati and others, they intend to seize possession of planet Earth away from their partners once they help them establish a new world order, or what remains of it after an interplanetary migration, plus a systematic depopulation and microchipped implantation and robotic hybridization program are put in place. The Nebu Greys are the mortal enemies of the reptilian Siakar Empire and the Galactic Federation, composed of over 100 aligned colonies and planets, most of whom are inhabited by various highly advanced humanoid races seeking to salvage or harvest as many of their kind as they can before the final curtain falls. There is no time left for any supposed spiritual ascension to take place as the planet moves into a higher frequency. That won't stop the progress of the Grey agenda. Not to mention a variety of other predators such as the Verdants who want to repopulate the planet in their own image and likeness. Consider it a second regenesis of sorts. There are already a host of interstellar planets existing throughout the galaxy who have already fallen prey to the same age-old ploy. Their Illuminati proxies in power have infested the choke points of finance, politics, military power, and industrialization, along with science, technology, the mass media, as well as organized crime and religion, although the two are not mutually exclusive. In order to solidify such a scheme, a transhumanist machination has become the Illuminati's favorite agenda, that of hardwiring humanity into a mental and spiritual holographic prison by means of implanting and microchipping the entire population of Earth, achieving a slavery that would make Satan himself envious. It is a truer-than-life matrix of the imprisoned mind and mass spiritual murder. The Illuminati and their extraterrestrial handlers have to make you believe it's all make-believe. And who wants to believe any of this is real? But I ask you to consider what you have to lose by ignoring this humbling truth about humanity. And more to the point, consider what you can actively do to resist the Illuminati New World Order. This work is also devoted to providing a more realistic history of the reptilian race, removing it from the one-size-fits-all categories that other advanced humanoid races within the galaxy have painted, especially as it portrays a very distorted viewpoint. much of which has been teased out in the popular press and repeated ad nauseum in the secret conspiracy of everything press. Furthermore, the eldest galactic race in the Milky Way is not reptilian, but Magian, a master race created prior to the reptilian and draconian angels and heavenly messengers. Their roles and relationships are likewise recounted within the pages that follow, adding a greater piece to the larger overall puzzle of how the New World Order and extraterrestrial planetary piracy has spread throughout this galaxy and others just like it. The New World Order is nothing more than the occult world order under a more palatable and marketable packaging. There are no only begotten sons of God. In contradiction to the false claim made or attributed to Jesus in the Bible, wherein he is described as being the only begotten Son of the Divine Father, in factual truth, all male Alpha Draconian sons, including Lucifer, are directly begotten sons of the Divine Father. Their mother is none other than the dark mother goddess Lucifera. And while Jesus and Lucifer are technically half-brothers, along with the rest of the archangels or alien angels, just as Cain murdered Abel, some sibling rivalries fare badly, ending in fraternal mayhem and murder. There simply is no other way of producing such sons in the Alpha Draconian universe, whatever their good or evil leanings might be. Jesus assumed a human form as a hybrid prophet for purposes of appealing to the masses to rebuff Enlil in particular, whom he aptly describes as a lion, wolf and Anunnaki, seeking whomsoever he might devour. He never claimed to be equal to the Father. This was inserted as dogma to hijack his revolutionary message and establish the fascist Roman Catholic Church and the Illuminati-appointed Pope. Those gargoyles perched upon the Gothic church steeples bear an uncanny likeness to the ancient wolf and canine lords from Sirius. These beasts were not in the least bit mythological, as the millions who were eaten alive in battle during the Aryan-Sirius wars could well attest. And for that matter, it includes the multitude of sheeple routinely slaughtered and eaten upon planet Earth by the Anunnaki and Illuminati, or those abducted and eaten off planet elsewhere. The principal goal regarding the secret history of Lucifer in particular, and the reptilian race in general, is to correct some gross distortions perpetuated by a corrupted interstellar history contained within a rare emerald green holographically encoded crystal known as a gurkhu, meaning flashing truth sword, whose properties allowed for the frequency programming that contained a holographic history of the ancient reptilian and Amazonian female race known as the Amasutum, of which Queen Tiamata and her daughter Lucifera were the leading matriarchs. The gurkhu operates on the energetic frequency of the owner that is keyed to the Kundalini force when raised to the crown chakra. The amount and type of energy being exerted mentally upon the gurkhu acts as a frequency catalyst that allows interdimensional travel to the first through the fourth dimensions related to Earth as well. Some also had a weaponized capacity when the lower survival chakras were activated and adrenaline kicked in, turning it into a laser-bladed weapon exactly like those laser swords featured on the Star Wars series. Gold was not the only valuable asset the gods were interested in obtaining. Rather, it was the pronounced May stones, that were in actuality rare crystals that fueled the light frequency systems, enabling an alien to abduct and transport a victim through walls and solid objects in the material world. They were also invaluable for weaponry and transport systems, just as valuable as the mineral quartz technology that serves to make computer systems operate. This is not to say that the Gurkhu Chronicle in crystal form was infallible. Far from it. Larger parts of the whole can and did become corrupted over time, along with the fact that some of the history has been purposefully omitted. The chronicles of the Magians are a case in point, but there are others. For example, one Gurkhu chronicle opens in a holographic flash, where Lucifer, aka Enki, is journeying through the abyss or Abzu underground of a hollow planet elsewhere in the galaxy when he spots thousands of felled soldiers clad in gold-plated armor that had been decapitated and left in pieces. The surprising part is that he doesn't recognize this ancient war, whose origins were unknown to him. As we shall see, this was the work of the Magian Empire, armed with an extremely deadly weapon known as a Zudarka discus. This war was fought long before Lucifer was created, and thus was not included on the Gurkhu Chronicle, which is limited to the available input by source librarians living on Orion at the time. Otherwise, he would have known that the only way to kill a physically immortal warrior was to decapitate it. This was carried forward as a method to ensure that a vampire would not arise from the grave to haunt the living. Word of mouth had fled faster and spread farther than even the Gurkhu chronicle crystal could. While not identified as such, most reptilian histories are based upon the retelling of a Gurkhu chronicle in possession of a downed alien pilot from a spacecraft that landed in the late 1940s on an American Indian reservation. Unfortunately, as mentioned above, the Gurkhu chronicle in question contained a significant amount of corrupted information about the Aryan Empire and a historically distorted one as well. Imagine if you landed on a distant planet and it displayed a history of the ancient Roman Empire and its worst corruptions, vices, and excesses as being current and correct. Believing this to represent an accurate and contemporary history of early Roman life on the planet would be just as inaccurate as that presented about Lucifera, who is the Aryan Ayakar queen referred to in some of these historically outdated communications that were provided to the tribal elders of an American Indian reservation. From this singular source, a wellspring of anti-reptilian books has flooded the one reptilian conspiracy fits all marketplace. The most obvious corruptions include something known as the Orion Queens, when in fact this is akin to saying that the current president of the United States presides over the original 13 colonies and nothing else. This is a semantically based corruption of the world Orion and that of the Aryan Empire, which evolved into the much larger Siakar Empire, in the distorted timeline, which is a reptilian and draconian-run empire, parts of which Lucifer rules within both the Kar universe, or larger so-called void, and the cloned physical universe, such that the title of Ayakar pertains to her joint rulership in both these realms. The Aryan Empire is ruled by the Ayakar queen Lucifera, is based upon the term Ari, as in Ma'ari or Mary, which in turn means mother. The term An means most high or most high mother goddess. As a suffix, An also means it is an extension of the prefix or an extension of Ma, the most common title of Lucifera, which in turn means the mother's most high empire. Mary Ann is another derivative of the Aryan name and title of Lucifera. Another common confusion involving general semantics is that made by the Nazis and skinheads who have abducted the Aryan name and reapplied it to a eugenic-based male empire, which is a deliberate rebranding of the name perpetuated by the patriarchal-based Khan kings, aka Wolf and Anunnaki, who betrayed Lucifer and the Aryan Empire by aligning with the Nebu Empire and the Shetu Greys when sent to colonize Earth eons ago. Thereafter, these deserters formed a secretive occult cabal who worshipped Lucifer as the true god, later known as the Illuminati, parts of which pre-existed in the underworld realms as the Nephilim and reptilian Nordic refugees from Atlantis. Many of these same forces have fallen under the fascist sway of the alien Shetu, or shadow government, controlled by the Nebu Grey Collective as the spiritual slave masters over the earth and its many multinational secret societies. The Aryan Empire, which is now known as the Siakar Empire, is the largest in terms of both size and strength of arms and trade in the multiverse, its vast borders stretching into the far reaches of this and other galaxies. Orion as a constellation is no longer the original nerve center of the Orion and Aryan Empire that it once was. Both have been eclipsed long ago by what is now the greatly expanded Siakar Empire. The Orion tributary planet is one of several factions that are now struggling under the renegade reptilian forces acting in alliance with the Nebu Grey Empire and others. The Siakar Empire and the Galactic Federation have been engaged in an alliance to eradicate their common enemy, the Nebu Grey Empire and the Siakar rebels. Note the word rebels, a fact some popular authors are unaware of, banding the Siakar and the Nebu Grey Empire together as one, which is incorrect and insulting. In one book by noted author Elena Danan, titled The Cedars, she insists that the Siakar have been evacuated from the galaxy when nothing could be further from the truth. Rest assured, the reptilian Siakar Empire is quite well, powerful, and proactive. Somewhat embarrassingly, I might add, the author included a chart in the appendix that clearly shows that the Nebu Empire and the Siakar Empire are competitors. It is only the renegade Siakar reptilians who have joined with the Illuminati and the Nebu Grey Empire. Regrettably, they too are very much alive and active on Earth and elsewhere. Speaking for the reptilian faction, we could not be happier to see the entire Illuminati crushed along with the Nebu Grey Empire. Yet, these two are not all there is to be concerned about. A much more sinister threat than these two looms large. In fact, there are two such threats that could easily provoke an extinction event for planet Earth in the near future, both of which are outlined in the pages that follow. Another popular fictionalized source of information that has been re-edited and adapted for Hollywood entertainment is the 2-season televised version of V, as revised with improved special effects technology that was released in 2009 following the earlier televised version. The second season ended with a sudden curtain drop when an earthly hybrid alien daughter who defected from her parents to the V-Queen, appropriately named Anna, which is another name for Lucifera as Ur Anna, meaning the crown of heaven, who proves to be even more powerful than the pure-blooded aliens who invade Earth, posing as reptilian shapeshifters on a peace mission. Whereas in fact, Lucifera is more powerful than any hybrid or purebred reptilian alpha draconian queen. She does not possess any conflicting human emotions as expressed in her characterization on the show. The sudden ending of V was a bit late since the hybrid cat was out of the bag, so to speak, revealing as it did the fact that when a hybrid is created from two opposing races, such as a reptilian and a human, the result is simultaneously one more powerful than the weakest side, yet more easily controlled by the sire to whom the hybrid is bound, that being Anna in this case. The Shetu Greys have been slave trading such hybrids for many millions of years before Earth began. They are not purely reptilian, as so often reported, but rather a hybrid avian and lizard strain whose ambitions were aimed at subverting the Aryan Empire of Lucifera. Earth is just one of many prison planets littered throughout the multiverse they have helped to colonize, invade, and control. The origin of all this anti-reptilian propaganda was the aforesaid humanoid who crash-landed in an Apache Indian reservation and who was subsequently rescued by some elders in 1947. Among them was the grandfather of Robert Morning Sky, who went on to author these revelations, complete with a certain amount of misinformation as provided by the humanoid alien whose given name was Bekti. Robert Morning Sky also produced several online video seminars that outlined these and other revelations. Unfortunately, this included a number of cross-contaminated or missing histories and some misinterpreted wording, such as where Morning Sky outlines the DNA-based biological evolution of what he terms the dragonfly as being the true source of the Keb reptilian race, Aryan race of reptilians, when in fact the correct wording is the dragon that flies, not the dragonfly. The dragon was an ancient serpent whose wing-like fins evolved into a pair of bat-like wings and whose crossbreeding with a poisonous bipedal scorpion produced a venomous race of flying humanoid serpents, more commonly known as the Black Alpha Draconian Royals. One instance in particular comes immediately to mind. The historical record of how King Menes of the Sumerian, as an Aryan empire, was assassinated by a Keb beast who arrived from the waters of the Nile. While the word Keb in Egyptian can be translated as a wasp or hornet, no wasp or hornet is ever described as a beast. Instead, it was indeed a female Keb vampire assassin. An abundance of critical material was also left out. Perhaps not due to any duplicity of the rescued alien, but because neither the Wolfen Anunnaki nor Lucifera wished to have it recorded for very dissimilar reasons. And it is not a minor footnote to their history, but indeed a drama that almost destroyed their majority rule by the invasion of a race of ultra-violent Magian warriors skilled in a mental and spiritual sorcery, the likes of which neither empire had previously encountered, one that would cost these two mutual enemies dearly and forever alter their destiny. The old New World Order of Atlantis. Not all reptilian extraterrestrial races are belligerent. In fact, some are entirely peaceful and have nothing to do with the Alpha Draconian race or the human race. Both are viewed as barbaric. On the other hand, there are some humanoid life forms who broke away to become a race of extraterrestrial totalitarians, such as the renegade Pleiadian Titans, who have genetically re-engineered themselves in the same intended mold of Hitler's eugenics model, who are 10-foot-tall hyperhuman warriors bent upon a totalitarian takeover of the entire universe. They are obnoxious humanoid tyrants who make the Nazis appear playful and childlike by comparison. And while currently aligned with the rebellious part of the Aryan star system, which is an extension of the Nebu Grey Empire, these Pleiadian tyrants intend to turn upon their reptilian partners when the time is right, and then wage war against their Grey allies on Orion. After that, their goal is to overrun the Galactic Federation, which is a humanoid-centric alien group composed of over 100 allied colonies and planets formed to preserve a federation of free worlds. Obviously, Lucifer is not part of this reptilian rebellion that is taking place upon parts of the renegade planet meant to usurp her rule, albeit the conspiratorial press likes to lay all the blame upon the reptilian race rather than the dismembered parts of a much larger empire. This renegade Pleiadian race is also known as the Atlans, who were the original humanoid group captured and banished to Earth as expendable criminals ages ago in order to combat and contain the reptilian race of Nagas and others who were already well established and settled in the hollow underworld beneath Terra and on the surface continent of Lemuria. The Atlanteans later interbred with the dark shape-shifting Nephilim strain to create a Nordic reptilian race who usurped the Atlantean culture at every level, exactly as the Illuminati on Earth have done, overtaking and monopolizing the political, religious, financial, and military domains with weapons and technology developed by aliens. Meanwhile, the Atlanteans were well on their way to establishing a new world order with themselves as its designated overseers. They viewed the Lemurians as interlopers whose lands held valuable resources the Atlanteans coveted. An epic confrontation ensued in which the Atlanteans waged all-out war against the serpentine race of Nagas who inhabited Lemuria. Recklessly, with more technology than common sense, the Atlanteans helped sink their own continent by the reckless sonic bombardment sent through their deep mountainous caves and caverns using a super maystone or crystal light cannon aimed at the Lemurian inhabitants of Agartha who had fled below to escape a holocaust from above with aerial assaults by the Atlanteans. Many of the rare crystal-based weapons used by the Atlanteans were fifth-dimensional crystals or maystones that harnessed the energy grids of Earth and the central energy of the Sun, in honor of which the reptilian Nordic Atlanteans erected and established the Temple of the Sun. An article appearing in the Rosicrucian Digest, December 1966, entitled The Mysterious Glass by Gaston Burridge, described the massive Atlantean May crystal weighing several tons and posed a serious question. Could this ruby-colored glass block have been made for some sort of laser beam use? Further suggesting that it might be part of the terrible weapon hinted at in the Atlantean promulgations. There are in fact many ancient legends to indicate the super red crystal lasers were used as weapons in Atlantean times, of which this Beth Shiarim crystal artifact was but one example. It is supposed that whatever the super red May crystals did not devastate, the destructive forces of the deluge did shortly thereafter when Enlil launched an offensive attack of his own against the Atlantean temples from Egypt. If this seems implausible, consider the fact that decades ago German engineers were already perfecting an oxygen lance which could cleave and melt dense rock. Another was the carbon dioxide laser developed by Canadian scientists, which releases 3 times the energy of any previous ruby laser. The resultant warfare between the Atlanteans and Lemurians set off a massive series of volcanic eruptions, violent earthquakes, and gigantic tidal waves that partly submerged the entire continent of Atlantis. The retaliatory weapons released upon the Atlanteans by Lemuria when Enlil launched a laser weapon from within the Great Pyramid, forcibly collapsing the 3-mile thick vaporous clouds surrounding Earth at that time, did so by demolishing the enormous underground circuit of May crystals that secured it in place. Finishing off what the Atlanteans had begun, finally sinking both continents into the sea along with the rest of the world. The reptilian albino kings of Atlantis were known as the Sons of Belial for their loyalty to Lucifer, who sought to establish a one-world order. The order was known as the Atlantean Temple of the Sun, which in time became better known as the Illuminated Temple, or as the Illuminati. They looked upon Lucifer as their worthiest technological god, having supplied them with sophisticated arms and advanced military weapons, all of which superseded any spiritual goals or objectives, just as the current devotion to science is replacing common spiritual sense, paving the way for the new Atlantis. One author who confirms the basic outlines as given above is W.T. Samsel, who channeled the information in a book titled The Atlantis Connection, in which he states the following. The age of the Atlantic Empire would prove to be a free-for-all for the Sons of Belial and the followers of the Temple of the Sun. The dominant white tribe came to rule all aspects of the Atlantean society. They disregarded the law of one, a unified cosmic consciousness, placed their faith in technology, and were driven by greed and lust for power. The arms of the Atlantic Empire came to stretch nearly worldwide. The Americas and Africa, the European countries, the Middle East, India, and Tibet came under the control of the empire. The one temple of Lemuria was divided and ineffective, while the Sun Temple flourished and the Sons of Belial prospered. Throughout recorded history, they, the Sons of Belial, have sought dominion over all others and over the earth itself. They have been highly programmed and conditioned to be exclusive, aggressive, and dominating. Presently, these lead humanity towards the New World Order, consciously or unconsciously carrying out the agenda of the Illuminati, hence the extraterrestrial manipulators. Rightly concluding that the illuminated Sons of Belial, by using the Earth as a magnetic conductor through which to aim and operate the Super May death crystal against the Lemurians, had caused an unintended refraction backwards against them, triggering a massive geological cataclysm. To this day, the Masonic emblems hail Lucifer as the architect and morning star of malefic technology, with his all-seeing eye displayed on the obverse side of the dollar bill, combining supernatural wisdom with black magic and high technology to obtain a brave new world order, a new Atlantis devoted to Lucifer, a new hell on earth for all the rest of its inhabitants. In his book, Children of the Matrix, David Icke has this to say on the subject of the ancient battle between Lemuria and Atlantis. The Temple of the Sun has been the religion of the Illuminati from Atlantis, Lemuria, right through the present day. In fact, today's world is the new Atlantis, a mirror of the obsession with technological dominance that led to the destruction of the first Atlantean civilization. Put simply, the law of one sees everything as connected, part of the same unified whole. And the Temple of the Sun represents the desire to present everything as unconnected and isolated from everything else. One seeks to unite, the other to divide and therefore rule. Speaking from the reptilian side of the equation, I would agree with David Icke's general synopsis, especially the destructive nature of the Illuminati. That said, I believe both forces are necessary to balance the spiritual equation and advance the goals of creation by weeding out the worst of created offenders, whether human, hybrid, or reptilian. It was the largely unknown dark mother goddess, Lucifera, who brought much of this world into being, in part through the genius of her eldest son, Lucifer. He also brought disaster in his wake as he waged an eternal war against his half-brother, the Anunnaki prince known as Enlil, the notoriously evil god pretender. To understand how humanity ended up where it has, one has to have a much fuller history and understanding of the key players in this cosmic drama, which explains how Earth came to inherit the cancerous Illuminati reptilians and their extraterrestrial handlers. Future interstellar follies. Meanwhile, to further compound the naivete of the human race, in exchange for weapons of mass destruction, The military-industrial complex composed of Illuminati members during the Eisenhower presidency signed a secret treaty with the alien race of Greys, effectively disregarding and trampling upon U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights by legalizing the kidnapping and abduction of innocent American citizens indiscriminately by an alien race for biological experimentation. The Greys are infamous for planetary infiltration by portraying themselves as a dying race incapable of reproducing due to protracted warfare on their planet Zeta Reticula. The whole story is an elaborate scam. If that doesn't work, they'll revert to the ridiculous lie that they are the Nordic race from the future, returning just in time to save humans or whatever planetary race they happen to infest, offering the same ridiculous story of their self-destructive past with an appeal to cosmic repentance by saving the race they intend to infiltrate and destroy. Squeezed between the Illuminati reptilian renegades and the soulless global government with its secretive cabal of financial, religious, and political monopolies, many of whom are aligned with either the notorious Nebu Grey Empire or the equally malicious overpopulated Verdant Empire that stands at 500 trillion aliens plus, spread throughout many galaxies, it would appear that the stage is set on planet Earth for the final harvesting of humanity. As if humanity needed any more enemies, in the sub-basement of Earth lies Agartha, home to the ancient reptilian Naga race, who are none too pleased with the destruction visited upon their Earth and its life-sustaining oceans and waterways, for which they hate and abhor all the Nebu Greys, the Illuminati, and the invasive humans. Meanwhile, humanity is fast asleep at the wheel, with little to no awareness of all these confederacies and conspiracies, alien and otherwise, who have occultly infiltrated every worldly and military power imaginable. People don't care because they have better things to do with their time, desiring only to slumber in their idyllic technicolor drive-through dream. The human herd lives in a state of suspended spiritual animation, driven by the three original satanic evils that human and Illuminati nature have in common, namely greed, ego, and self-gratification, all of which will usher in the wreck of humanity as prognosticated and engraved upon the Georgia Guidestones. The final harvesting of humanity. Meanwhile, atheists serve the same triune God as most Christians and other religionists do, namely the triune God of ego, greed, and self-gratification, ignoring or completely unaware that there are more intelligent, powerful, belligerent, alien life forms who want to rule this planet and rape its resources dry. And then there's the Nebu Greys, who will help the Illuminati gain world control and then kill them all, as was related to me when I spoke with several who took possession of a remote viewer I knew, repeating the threat with a hiss worthy of a cornered viper about to strike. Sa-ta, sa, it hissed while crouched on my leather sofa. Yes, we'll kill them too. Perhaps the last hope for humanity, or parts thereof, may rest in the evacuation mission known collectively as the Harvest, which the Bible obliquely refers to as the Rapture. Unlike sweet celibate angels, it will be undertaken by extraterrestrials such as the Galactic Federation and others seeking to rescue a remainder of souls from the New World Horror Show. Unfortunately, there will be a false flag invasion engineered by the Illuminati once they have created enough disasters, Frankenstein plagues, and financial panics, coupled with severe weather-changing catastrophes, enough to warrant the willing and eager surrender of your freedom to become their eternal slave. The Illuminati are no longer afraid of a revolution by humanity, as witnessed by the malevolent Guidestones implanted in Georgia. It is a litmus test of public reaction to their revelations. So, what actions can you take to preserve your freedom, your soul, and your future against global slavery? Because all of these are evaporating right before your very eyes, and they have a plan with you in mind. The plan. The crisis that confronts humanity at this critical juncture is the conflagration of a hidden alien history and its global impact. The Illuminati plan they have prepared for you is summarized on the monolithic Georgia Guidestones erected in Elbert County anonymously in 1979 in a faux Stonehenge fashion. Engraved on the stones are 10 neo-fascist commandments, politically spun into Orwellian instructions. More importantly, they unveil a fascist plan for eugenic extermination and global genocide. The first commandment reveals all the rest. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Since the world's population now stands at 7.8 billion, what shall be done with the expendable 7.3 billion? The alien answer seems the most obvious. First, institute species integration, followed by global militarized assimilation and final hybridization of 500 million aliens over time, and systematically exterminate the rest. That's the plan, carved in stone for all to see. Tick tock.